It's really unfortunate that the Petshop of Horrors anime only has 4 episodes, adapting only 4 out of 41 potential stories. But Duel might just be one of the best chapters in the story, and we're glad it got an adaptation. The story revolves around an aspiring congressman, or rather his secretary, who's desperate to make him the president for personal reasons. At some point, they learn that they could potentially make this a reality by getting their hands on Kirin. Yes, the mythical beast from East Asian folklore Kirin. So obviously, they find themselves in Count D's Petshop of Horrors, where he sells love, dreams, and hopes. But the Kirin is a complex creature in this story. In this video, we hope to explain the story and the Kirin's role in it in great detail. To stay true to the authenticity of Matsuri Akino's writing, we'll be going over the manga more so than the anime, considering the anime omits and changes quite a few things. Getting the unthinkable. Why do Roger and Kelly want the Kirin? Roger T. Stanford, the youngest congressman ever, visits Count D's pet shop with his assistant and long-term friend, Kelly. They want a Kirin, a mythical creature reminiscent of a giraffe, dragon, ox, and horse all in one, popular across East Asian mythology for bringing prosperity. D is taken aback. He claims he can't keep such a large animal in such a small shop, but the congressman is not convinced. He reminds D of the time a Chinese emperor had kept one. He even alludes to the illustration of the Kirin on a beer label present in the sushi bar from Little Tokyo, but Count D flatly turns him down, calling the Kirin a beast of legend, which is nothing more than a myth, nothing more than an imaginary animal. But Roger T. Stanford has an ace up his sleeve, his grandfather's diary. 50 years prior to the events of the story, and sometime during the Second World War, Roger's great-grandfather made a purchase, a Kirin, from Chinatown's pet shop, which back then was run by Count D's grandfather. Recently, Kelly had found Roger's great-grandfather's personal diary in their family archive. He had walked into the pet shop during the Second World War, and inside he was met by a Chinese man who had wandered across Europe and sold legendary beasts. The Count D of that time had told the man about Kirin arriving in China and bringing prosperity to its people. It was a sacred beast that only served the ruler of a country and also helped one take a throne. In a way, the Kirin helped a person take the throne and then served under them. It was how Roger's great-grandfather himself had become the president of the United States of America in his time. The Count D of the present day is not moved by this tale and insists they leave. Despite being offered a huge amount of money, he cannot sell something he doesn't have. This causes a commotion outside the shop, causing them to get spotted by Detective Leon Orcott, who had been strolling by. Once Count D spots the detective, Roger and Kelly leave, but Roger gives Count D an ultimatum. If he doesn't give him what he wants, he'll have the shop shut down. This leads to a conversation between Orcott and Count D while back inside. They talk about Roger, one of the youngest congressmen ever elected for office. This was very unusual for someone of such a young age, but Roger came from a family of prominent political figures. As D would put it, he was bred for politics. He was renowned even for his looks that were reminiscent of a Kennedy's. On paper, he was likely to win again, confusing Count D about why he wanted a Kirin so badly when his chances were already so good. Orcott was confused on hearing the name, confusing it for a giraffe, as in Japanese, Kirin is used to refer to both the beast as well as a giraffe. But D rectifies it, calling the Kirin an unbelievably ferocious creature who can cause things to end very badly. But then again, he believed Americans had a tendency to do reckless things without care for the consequences. The scene shifts to the Stanford household, where Roger is going off about Count D, as he believes Count D is refusing to give him the Kirin to drive its price up. He wants the shop shut down, but Kelly advises against it, claiming that Chinatown operates on their own rules and laws, and they need all the votes they can get. He then brings up pressing issues for Roger to handle, such as the mountain of petitions from the local volunteer organizations and the issue of illegal mass migrations, but Roger couldn't care less as he's getting ready for a date. He already had a poor reputation for his womanizing ways despite being married, so Kelly wants Roger to take things seriously. Any scandal could be dangerous for him this close to the elections, but this riles Roger up even more, prompting him to pull Kelly by the tie and screaming why all of this makes it more important for them to return to the pet shop and get Kirin. He believes Kelly finding the diary was no accident. Right after his great-grandfather got the Kirin, he became the vice president, and soon after, the president suddenly died. He seemingly used Kirin as a mascot for the election campaign, becoming the next president. Roger believes he can attain the same if he gets the beast and leaves the burden on Kelly's shoulders. Right then, Roger's fiancée, Nancy Grayson, walks in with tea. She sees Kelly all alone and he lies to her about Roger being gone on an important meeting, but she knows what her husband is up to and asks if this meeting is with a dancer in Vegas or an actress in Hollywood. Flustered, Kelly tries to cover up for him. Nancy calls him a competent secretary, but a lousy friend and a bad bad liar. She sees how Kelly is the one approving all the documents instead of Roger. It was the same when they were in school, with Kelly making all the notes and reports while Roger played around. Nancy tells him how Roger never had to worry about money and didn't even care when his own mother was hospitalized. She believes he is only using Kelly as he makes friends only with those who have money. This offends Kelly a bit, who hops to Roger's defense. He doesn't agree with the fact that Roger has been using him, and he doesn't want Nancy to speak ill of him. He idolizes Roger, his charisma, his confidence. He believes that one couldn't hate Roger as he has this ability to draw others in. Nancy claims to have fallen for it too, claiming that she mistook his ego and urgency for confidence and love. But Roger only wanted Nancy to get his hands on the financial power of her family. Kelly tries to tell her that that's not true, but Nancy cuts him off. She confesses about finding the real man later, one who's kind and honest. She touches her engagement ring and tries to take it off. With both Nancy and Kelly blushing, one can tell the man she's talking about is Kelly himself, and it's confirmed by her next words. She tells Kelly that she can break off the engagement with Roger, implying a shared future with Kelly instead, but he once again stops her. He doesn't want people to find out that Roger's fiancée and secretary have been having an affair, as it could ruin the chances of him becoming president. Nancy thinks being president is a good but slightly unrealistic ambition. Kelly has his own reasons for being so hell-bent on Roger's presidential career. His father had died during the Vietnam War, and his mother never got over the grief of losing him. Following this, Roger's family granted him a scholarship for school. One day, a poor homeless man asked him for 50 cents, but Kelly had spent all of his money on a book. He was also scared of the man because he was smelly and leaning close to him, so he ran away, but sleep didn't come to him that night as he was ridden with guilt. The next day, he went back to the man with some food, but he saw the man was being taken away on a stretcher. He had frozen to death last night, and Kelly blamed himself for that. Due to him not having money or courage, a man died. Right at that moment, he saw Roger passing by in a fancy car. He looked like a prince. Had the man asked Roger for money instead of Kelly, he might have been saved. As a charismatic man born to be a politician, coming from a family of top-tier politicians, Roger, as per Kelly, has the power to create a world without poverty or hunger, a world without war. In fact, Kelly dreamed about the world being one nation as it would mean no war, clearly showing us how the death of his father in the Vietnam War impacted his life and ideologies. And the only one who could help realize that dream of his was Roger. Kelly was using Roger for the sake of it. He knows that traits he possesses, such as kindness, knowledge, and sincerity, are not what politicians need. They need money, power, and charisma, everything that Roger has. Kelly is happy to assist Roger in every way to use him for his own dreams, even if that means he has to get his hands dirty. He wants Roger to be president and Nancy to be first lady. Nancy tears up. She doesn't want to be first lady, and she never did. She just wants a happy home with children, a dog or a bird, and a husband who will sometimes come home early from work at 7 in the evening so that everyone can have dinner together. She wants a home where everyone can smile and be happy. She has little regard for political power. She cries as she admits this, and to make her feel better, Kelly takes her to Count D's pet shop. The second D sees Kelly, he tells him immediately that he doesn't have what he's looking for, guessing that he was back for the Kirin. But Kelly is here to get a dog or a bird for Nancy to help get her mind off things. He brings her into the shop, and immediately Count D is stunned to see her. There's something special about Nancy, and D spots it immediately. He offers her to take a look around, and she leaves with a regular dog, but D ponders over the day by himself. He claims to have felt nothing when he was met by Roger and Kelly, but Nancy was different. She had the disposition of a queen. Suddenly, the animals around him start to get uncomfortable as if they're sensing something. Once D catches onto it, he senses a strange aura emanating from a special room, the one where he has his Kirin. He's shocked by the prospect as lightning strikes, but he knows what to do next. The Kirin. Can it truly make dreams come true? Despite it being late, Count D calls Roger and Kelly. Roger asks if he's finally decided to sell the Kirin. D tells him that he's reluctant to do so, but apparently it's the will of the Kirin. It is one of the 4 sacred beasts alongside the phoenix, dragon, and the Genbu. Count D calls Kirin the king of all animals with fur. With that, he takes Roger and Kelly to a huge room, with the two expecting to see a ginormous monster. But what they're made to witness is an androgynous child dressed up like Chinese royalty from the yesteryears. Count D elaborates on the etymology of the Kirin, with Ki being male and Rin being female. As a result, the child is introduced as Kirin Sama, with Roger being the new master. The child raises its arms at Count D, wanting to be picked up, and so he picks her up when her feet are seen. They're bound. Roger and Kelly ask, and Count D tells them about how ancient China considered small feet to be beautiful, resulting in people binding their feet. This deliberate decision, however, caused the feet to become deformed, causing problems with walking for many. The Kirin had its feet bound because it is a merciful creature, and as a result, it will not trample over insects and flowers while walking the earth. Roger does not believe that this is a Kirin. He thinks Count D is engaging in shady business by selling children as pets, explaining how he's so well off, but he says that he doesn't go for this type of stuff. He agrees to let it slide for now, but threatens D with the authorities eventually coming down on the place. He takes his leave with Kelly without getting the Kirin when Count D stops him by referring to him as Mr. President. Roger is shocked. Count D tells him that becoming Congressman is only the first step. After that, he'll become the senator, then governor, then vice president, and then at the age of 35, the president of the United States of America. With that, the country would be ushered into a state of prosperity beyond imagination, both in terms of economy and military. The population will double, the landmass will increase by threefold, and the gross national product of the country will multiply by 10, all under his rule. He claims people of all ethnicities will bow to him. The Count tells Roger that he can finally show who he is to people who belittle him by claiming that he's gotten far due to his family connections and nepotism. Meanwhile, Kelly struggles due to the strong smell of incense in the room as it makes his head spin, but Dee then tells him how after Roger becomes president, the world will finally be a peaceful and prosperous place. There will be one nation and there will be no suffering, and all these desires will be granted by the Kirin. Roger is convinced by this and takes the Kirin. He agrees to sign the documents, and Count D tells him that the payment will be made as per the promise, that is, only after he becomes president. Count D has full confidence that they'll meet again in 8 years after Roger takes office. What he doesn't tell the two, however, is exactly how Kirans grant wishes. In the past, many people have signed contracts for Kirin. It was once done to get rid of colonial communists, but the price to pay was half the land and 1/3 of the population, clearly referring to the USSR. The contract had been signed while trying to save a country from defeat and poverty, but in return, millions of people from different ethnic backgrounds were sent into gas chambers. This example refers to Nazi Germany, with the rise of the Nazi Party beginning with the Treaty of Versailles giving Germany the shorthand of the stick following their defeat in the First World War. However, we clearly know how that one turned out. Finally, Count D refers to Roger's great-grandfather, who signed a contract with Kirin 50 years ago to end the Second World War, but in the process, he pressed the switch on 2 new bombs, referring to the nukes dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The Kirin cannot be caught. Kirin chooses its master and then fulfills the desires of that person, which tells us why Count D could not just sell the Kirin no matter what the price. Kirin had to choose the new master for whom it would grant wishes, but these wishes would come true at a cost. The cost being bloodshed, as seen across every example cited by Count D, be it the Second World War, the dissolution of the USSR, or the end of the Second World War. Climax, Kirin's choice. Roger and Kelly drive back home with Kirin sitting on the driver's seat. They talk about how their actions are a violation of the Child Welfare Act since a kid has been kind of sold to them, but then again, they weren't charged for it, at least not yet. But still, Roger thinks it's better than leaving the child for some other customer with ill intentions. However, the more pressing matter for him is the incense in Count D's shop. He thinks it's some kind of drug that they'll need to investigate. Thunder rings out as it suddenly begins to rain. In front of them, they see a school bus carrying children running haphazardly, pushing against the railings of the uphill terrain they're on while the kids are crying. The car pulls up and Roger confronts the bus driver, only to learn that the brakes aren't working. With no other options, Roger and Kelly decide to drive to the other side of the bus and push it flat against the hill to stop it, and so they do, with Kelly on the driver's seat while it thunders profusely. Ultimately, they stop the bus, but Roger's car skids off track and falls downhill. As Kelly lands outside the car on cold ground, now injured, Roger is still in the car when it blows up. Kelly screams his name when the Kirin appears in front of him. "What is your desire?" it asks him, clearly signifying that Kelly has been chosen instead of Roger. Kelly thinks about what he wants as he bleeds out. Wealth, honor, power, to make Roger the president, a world without hunger and poverty, a world with nothing but peace. That is his desire. And then he imagines Nancy crying and realizes that the political dream isn't his true desire. All he wants is for Nancy to smile, and the Kirin understands. We next see the police station where people are talking about Congressman Roger T. Stanford having had an accident, about how his car ran off a cliff while trying to save a bus full of children. However, Roger miraculously survived while Kelly failed to make it. Leon Orcott makes the connection to Count D once again. He knows he's involved because both Roger and Kelly had visited his pet shop. Orcott believes Count D sold them some dangerous animal, but he's reminded that he cannot investigate a case without evidence, and especially in Chinatown, he would need compelling evidence. So Orcott decides to go to the mayor and barges into the mayor's office, only to be greeted by Count D inside. We see he's been visiting the mayor, Peggy, who is apparently a loyal customer of D's. In fact, they're quite close, with the mayor being one of D's pet shop's most generous patrons. D then tells Orcott about how Roger is now set to only see success and become a senator soon after saving the kids, then governor, then president, making the most powerful man in the country, if not the world, his prized customer. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Nancy comes to visit Roger as he wakes up. However, the consciousness is of Kelly's, who sees Roger's engagement ring on himself. In fact, it is Kelly's consciousness in Roger's body. Nancy is unaware of this in the moment and cries while telling him how Kelly has passed away. Kelly, while in Roger's body, touches her face and tells her not to cry for him. He sees presents all around him, and nurses refer to him as Mr. Stanford. The masses love him after this incident and promise to vote for Roger in the upcoming elections. And then the Kirin speaks to him. He tells him that he now has power, wealth, intelligence, and compassion to keep fate in his own hands. And Kelly finally gets it. Finally, he addresses Nancy. He tells her not to cry and makes a promise to buy a small house, have children, and a pet dog. He'll come home at 7 to have dinner with the family. Of course, Nancy is surprised to hear these words, as this is what she had told Kelly she wanted. And with that, Kelly tells her how they will have a family that always has a reason to smile as they live in their small white house, clearly referring to the residential palace of the US president. Inspiration behind Kirin. Kirin in Petshop of Horrors and across other anime. Considered to be a type of yokai as per Japanese mythology, the Kirin is a popular benevolent mythical beast across Eastern Asia. The Chinese mythological variant is referred to as a Kirin, although this creature is the same as its Japanese counterpart. Meanwhile, the Korean version is known as the Girin. While Count D is Chinese, the story being Japanese in nature has led to the creature being referred to as a Kirin instead of a Kilin, a one-horned beast. The Kirin is similar to a unicorn in form and reminiscent of a giraffe, horse, and ox with dragon-like scales on its body, making it a chimerical beast. It's rare, holy, and one of the most powerful of all mythical beasts, revered for habitating areas with a wise and benevolent ruler while having holy fire encompassing its flowing mane. We see this during the shots of the Kirin within the episode that makes it evident that the creature's form takes inspiration from several real-life animals and combines them. We see the child the Kirin appears as in the story with its feet bound in order to not harm living beings beneath its feet. This is because the Kirin is vegetarian and doesn't harm any other creature. It's gentle and is known for walking without trampling upon even a single blade of grass. They never harm souls that are benevolent and pure. However, if threatened, the Kirin brings retribution fiercely, taking down its enemy with holy fire blasting from its mouth. We see something similar in Naruto, with Sasuke being able to summon a Kirin-like lightning strike with the intention of bringing down retribution on his enemy, and it's been used against both Itachi and Naruto during Sasuke's battles against them. While on paper, the jutsu should completely take down the opponent, it can be assumed that due to both Itachi and Naruto's benevolence, the attack didn't take them out, as the Kirin never harms the good people. The chapter about the Congressman's path to becoming the president has reasons for involving the Kirin. It is a being that's mythologically seen during the reigns of enlightened rulers, causing the beast to get associated with the Golden Ages. While wish granting isn't part of the beast's resume, its objective within the story is not just to appear during the rule of a great ruler, but to make someone a ruler. For this reason, the Kirin is shown to choose its master, picking the person it wants to attribute the glory to. However, this glory isn't free, and it reminds us of Aluka Zoldik's power from Hunter x Hunter, with the Dark Continent entity within her, Nanika, being able to grant wishes but at a huge cost. Overall, these are creatures that bring luck and fortune, with the arrival of Kirin signifying the coming of a great leader, explaining why Count D was convinced that Roger, or Kelly, will most definitely become the president of the United States and usher the country to a completely different height. It is believed that Kirins can read the purity or deception within the human heart, and as such, rewards the pure and punishes the deceiver. While not a deceiver, Roger was not an ideal politician, as he was engrossed in his own little flings and unconcerned about the state of his people, unlike Kelly. His desires were noble, such as world peace, and he was a good man. Considering it was Nancy whose presence triggered Kirin, the being wanted to honor her wishes, which, due to her love for Kelly, would favor Kelly. That's why we see Roger blow up in the car while Kelly lived to see the Kirin and express his wish, which was to see Nancy happy, and Nancy's happiness required Kelly to be by her side. Neither of them wished to be the president themselves, but due to Kelly's righteous nature, the Kirin gifted Kelly with what he lacked, that is, Roger's wealth, fame, and charisma, and also his life, allowing him to be with Roger's fiancée Nancy while in Roger's body. This is because Count D's pet shop sells love, hopes, and dreams. The Kirin creates the path for Kelly's dream to come true, creates hope for him by giving him access to Roger's wealth and power, and honors his love by making it possible for him to have a family with Nancy without having to sacrifice everything due to a scandal. Most of the other creatures we see appear the way the owner wants them to appear, be it as their late daughter or as a beautiful humanoid reptile. However, the Kirin doesn't present itself the way others want it to look. It peers into the heart of its master, not to assume a particular form, but to know what their wish is and whether it's coming from a place of goodwill. In the story, the Kirin appears as a young androgynous child, and this is due to the Kirin being able to take on a human form. When it does so, the creature is generally small in stature, with small feet, delicate feminine features, and blue crystalline eyes, all of which we see in the Kirin from Petshop of Horrors. It's adorned in extravagant clothing and jewelry due to its original form having magnificent dragon-like scales and a flowing mane. Another modern-day depiction of the Kirin appears in One Piece's Elbaf arc, where we see the Holy Knight, Rimofushu Killingham, wield the mythical zone dragon fruit model Kirin. It turns him into a half-Kirin hybrid who has the ability to put others into a sleep and manifest their dreams into reality, making it theoretically similar to what we see in Petshop of Horrors. Theoretically, because Killingham quite literally manifests what a person is dreaming of without caring about benevolence or malevolence, as we see it bring the object of the Elbaf children's fears to life while the kids sleepwalk to their deaths. The name, as you might notice, is also reminiscent of the Kirin, considering Killingham, as per Japanese pronunciation, would be Kiringham. It also helps that the wielder is a holy knight, making him holy by existence as per the laws of the One Piece verse. But each anime example here has come after Petshop of Horrors, making its Kirin the first out of those that we've mentioned. There is a high possibility the incense in Count D's shop has something to do with the abilities of his beasts too. It's presumably magical in nature and operates by allowing Count D to assess what's in the hearts of his customers. In fact, when Kelly comments on the incense being too strong and making him woozy, that's when we see Count D bringing up what both Roger and Kelly want for themselves, with Roger wanting to prove others wrong about him getting what he has simply because of connections, and with Kelly wanting global peace. Via this, the Kirin fits perfectly into this story, and among the 4 animated episodes is the only one where its form does not seem to be a ruse for the owner only. Marvelous verdict! The Kirin is the only beast among the ones seen in all 4 animated episodes of Petshop of Horrors whose form is set in stone. It's not perceived as a creature by all, but as a human by the owner and Count D. Instead, its childlike form is set in stone instead of being a ruse. In fact, after the purchase, we're not shown any relevant contract clauses, such as not showing the Kirin to other people, which is normally a common clause in every contract across the show. This is because it doesn't represent the customer's dream. Instead, it makes the customer's dream a reality, so long as the customer has the disposition of a king and it's chosen them as its master, of course. With that, today's video comes to an end. What did you think of the Kirin? Did you enjoy this video? If so, then don't forget to like and comment down below. Until next time, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.